Welcome back to another weekly breakdown video. Now in this video we are of course posting it on a Monday rather than a Sunday. Now first things first, we always like to do this and we want to say a massive thank you to everyone, yes you if you are watching these videos every week, for supporting the previous upload with the likes and the comments. It honestly helps us a lot when it comes to reaching new people, and of course we hope in turn the content helps you prepare for the week. So if you want to be a part of the Discord and all that good stuff, you know where to find it, description down below. But without further ado, let's get into this week's overall markup, and we're going to walk you through our outlook on our main pairs. So first of all, let's recap what we posted last week. That is today's post. Let me find last week's and then we'll go over the posts that we have here. So last week on Euro we had three areas of supply that we were looking for price to sell away from. Now of course this is because we have a higher time frame bearish narrative. We have literature to go with this. As always, if you want to go and check that out, the links down below, you'll find my trading view where I post these charts every week. But we were saying how we want to be realistic with the context here. We want to play within this range. You don't want to expect any crazy expansions against our directional bias. We don't want to over anticipate anything outlandish happening. Stay within a reasonable context within the time frame you're looking at, in our case the 4 hour, and then you're going to be most likely in the right position to be able to trade in your favored direction if and when price decides to get to your area. So based off of this principle here, we had options which was pulling back, selling away from the first area of supply, again pulling back further, selling away from the extreme area of supply, or taking out our liquid high and pushing up into the extreme of the larger range itself before selling off. And then of course we had the other option, which was price just selling straight off through these lows. So when we play this here, you'll see what happened, and we actually had a really nice push up, and we spent most of the week shorting this back down to this low, which we actually hit before pushing higher. Now, as I said, this is Monday, so we are like halfway through the London session already, and we actually opened with a relatively large gap here, as you can see. So when we go over to what we're expecting this week, and we will actually do it from this markup here, you can see that we have liquidity built up from the previous range. We of course liquidated the low, which is where we traded down from last week. We had no unmitigated order blocks within here for price to sell away from, not on the 4 hour time frame anyway. So we created relatively high amounts of liquidity across our highs and across the small section of lows here. So the options actually look pretty similar to what we had last week, which is price breaking high, running through these liquid highs, then selling away, price running through the liquid highs, breaking above the major high that caused the internal structure to be created, and then pushing up into the extreme again. This is the same extreme supply that we had from last week, but ultimately we're expecting the main moves to come to the downside because we are bearish across our higher time frames. So keeping this in mind, we're expecting these two options, which are liquid sweep, sell lower, or run of these highs, and then we're just going to wait to sell off from this upper area. When we play this, you'll see that of course we opened with a gap, so we're actually looking for price to come back down a little bit, possibly fill this gap, and then play higher into this area of supply. And of course if we don't get a relative idea based off of that, we will just simply sell it through the lows because that's our bias. So again, very simple markup this week. If you want the information in text, again, you can find it via the trading view. And as we mentioned before, we are trying to get to 500 followers, so not that far away, honestly. So if you aren't following me and you want to, again, you know where the information is. So let's go on to gold. Last week we gave out this idea, and this is again based on the same principle. We had a very big bearish range. We liquidated some previous lows to the left. We created substantial amount of liquidity across these lows here, and we said that we wanted to price to sell away from this area of supply, or to sell down through the 4-hour low because we have a bearish range here. So we're looking at it in a very simple long-term outlook like we always do, and we're expecting price to behave differently at certain points. So when we play this, you'll see that we actually pushed up, then we liquidated the lows, and then we pushed higher as we suspected. So we're now looking for price to run the previous high, which we have, and we're expecting some bullish movements into these highs before selling off this week. So that brings us into this week's markup, which reflects that. So we now had a run of the previous lows we had marked up. Excuse any noise you guys can hear in the background. I live opposite a new development in the property that I'm in, and currently doing some rather loud work. So if you can hear that in the background, I do apologize. We are trying to mitigate the sound as much as possible. So from this point here, we're looking at this major low being a source of liquidity to run higher, and we're hoping that price realistically was going to run slightly bearish off this liquidation, put in a new low, push us up into the area of supply, which we can then sell off of. If it doesn't do this, we of course look to go long. And the other scenario is if we don't put in a new low and we begin to sell off, we have an area of demand and we have our target, which is a 4-hour low. So take a look at this overall. What we're expecting, well, a bullish run early session, then a sell-off maybe tomorrow, depending on when price gets to certain areas, or a continued expansion through the highs. When we play this here, you'll see that we're beginning to see that move already. We liquidated the low. I know that some of our members that followed our markup have actually taken buys off of this liquidation of this low here. So they're hoping for that further extension, which we haven't confirmed yet, but if it does come through, will be a very nice move. So remember, if you want to be a member of our community, then you can find the link for that in the description. But that brings the overall weekly markup to a close. And if you have found this useful, then please drop us a like and a comment down below. Like I said, it helps a million, and we really appreciate it. But of course, there is no obligation there, and I hope you all have an amazing week. I hope you have found these markups insightful and they give you a little bit of context coming into this week. But for now, I hope you all have an amazing week, and I will see you all on next week's charts. Peace out, guys. Have a great